cannot hear or see you yet. So see if you can work that out on your end. Oh, maybe we've got you. We can hear you.
Oh, good. Yeah, the camera should be working. Perhaps it is because we do not have net neutrality.
It could be, yeah. Camera not working right now. It looks like you've got it face muted on your end. I can see your little logo. Oh, now we've got you. Hey.
Hey, all right. Technology.
Yes. So Jeff, tell us a bit about yourself and your YouTube channel, and why is the free and open internet important to you, and how are you using it?
Well, first off, thank you for the opportunity to have me on and talk about this really important issue. Good afternoon to everybody out there. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I do news and politics. I've talked a lot about net neutrality and how important it is. Talked about how businesses benefit greatly from having a free and open internet to be able to compete and have the best message win. And so that's really important to me. And the internet, I mean, the internet is so important, right? And you all know this because it didn't have gatekeepers. We didn't have gatekeepers, and we had the ability to democratize all of our voices. I mean, you look at the activism that has happened online, especially when it comes to social media, YouTube, Facebook, etc. And all these platforms and all these shows that have rose up around that activism to really push for transformational change. That's why it's so important. Now, personally, for me, I grew up. I'm 35 years old, so I'm kind of an old man, right? And I grew up, and I watched the internet grow up with me. And so keeping this free and open, like it was supposed to be from the start, is, I think, one of the most important things that we can do. And, not only that, but of course, I do live streaming every day, at 5 p.m. Eastern. Check it out, TMIT Nation, on important topics. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have the internet. I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't have access to this information. If we had these gatekeepers that were, keeping us from being able to spread our message and talk about these things and access this information that is outside of the mainstream media. And look, we talk about that, and I know that entire thing, phrase mainstream media is a bit cliche at this point, but it is true. They are the mainstream. They are the corporate media, and having these corporations in control of the internet, in control of what we see, ends what the internet is supposed to be. And so that's why we're out here. That's why I'm out here fighting, and that's why it's so important that that we all speak out, because this is something that the vast majority of Americans, you said before, they agree with. Democrats, Republicans, we want a free and open internet. We want fair competition for ideas, and we don't want these gatekeepers.
I think that's really well put. And obviously, I'm familiar with your show, and I know you tend to have a somewhat progressive slant. But if you're a conservative or a libertarian out there, you should be concerned about this as well. Without net neutrality protections, there's absolutely nothing preventing Comcast from arbitrarily deciding to speed up CNN and slow down Fox News, or to outright block Breitbart because they get pressure from conservative or from progressives to do so. Right now, there's no legal protections that prevent our internet service providers from essentially controlling or deciding what we see and do on the internet. So, again, I mean, I think you said it exactly right. This is about preventing gatekeepers from deciding what we see and do online. I think what we love about the internet is that there is a range of perspectives. We can go and look for where we want to get our news from. We can figure out what videos we want to watch, what music we want to listen to, without the company that connects us to the web basically telling us where to go and what to do. I don't know about you, Jeff, but I personally don't really like it when people tell me what to do. I'm a little bit of a rebel, born that way. But, I think, again, we've heard from business owners today. We've heard from veterans. We've heard from, policy experts. And here you are, someone who, has a news show, who's trying to keep people informed about what's going on. And Jeff, I think you have some comments that were submitted by internet users. Are you willing to read a few of those off for us?
Well, I actually can't access that since I'm running this on my tablet, although
Okay.
I really would. I had some technology issues with getting my mail and all that. But you guys, regardless of the comments, I love you guys for taking part in this. I love the interaction. I really wish I could read them. But okay. Now, to go back to something that you did mention, though, conservatives, right? If you're a conservative, if you're a Republican, if you have that libertarian sort of, point of view, right, you should be especially worried because right now, advertisements run a lot of what you see online. Now, advertisers, they have a lot of control over what these corporations, what these companies do. And so when advertisers get spooked by some conservative comment, as of course, or commentary, as they sometimes get spooked by a lot of progressive commentary, because what we all have in common is we don't like these big companies, these big corporations, and even big government kind of running us over, running over our message. You know what I mean? And so if you're a Republican, if you're of that persuasion, you should be really, really worried, really concerned about this net neutrality, this lack of net neutrality that we have. And that's why we see, of course, even, Republican independent, conservatives who are online talking about how important that this really is.
That's absolutely correct. And we are seeing again, we have a page, Don't Tread on the .net, that lays out some of the conservative and libertarian arguments for net neutrality. We've seen, again, when the Congressional Review Act came up for a vote in the Senate last year, 3 Senate Republicans broke with their party and voted for it. Senator Kennedy from Louisiana, who, he had kind of a funny quote. He was basically like, look, I'm not a trusting guy. That's why I own a gun. And I don't trust my internet service provider to do what's right. So, if you don't trust your internet service provider, then you got to be fighting to restore net neutrality. And I think, again, this really underscores how outside of Washington, D.C., this is like kind of the one thing that we can all agree on.
Right.
And yet it's getting bogged down in D.C., largely due to campaign contributions. And I think it's important to recognize as well that these aren't just flowing into the Republican Party, but also Democrats who've taken large amounts of money from the telecom industry. And while they've responded to the overwhelming public outcry on this and are largely lining up in support of net neutrality, that's not a given. And I personally, we're at Fight for the Future. We're a nonpartisan organization, and I'll agree with Senator Kennedy. I'm not trusting. I don't trust politicians of either party to just benevolently hand us net neutrality. This is something we're going to need to keep fighting for in the courts and in the states and at the federal level until we get it restored. So real quick, Jeff, what can folks do, if they're out there watching? What do you think is the most important way for people to be making their voice heard on this today, while kind of the internet is watching and paying attention to this issue?
Well, definitely calling your senator or your congressperson. I mean, that's really, really important because they need to hear from you specifically. And because all day, every day, they have lobbyists that are speaking into their ears and saying, no, trust me, this is what the American people want. They want us to be the gatekeeper. They want us to be in control because they love us. But in reality, of course, that's nonsense. So we have to hold them accountable. We have to call them and we have to let them know how we actually feel about this, sign petitions, and obviously, talk online with like-minded people, get organized, show up for rallies, things like that, and just let everybody know that this is something that's really, really important, and keep up that pressure because, look, even though these politicians might be taking campaign contributions and donations from these companies, they still need your vote. And so that's also really important. And they still need to appeal to you, and they're still ultimately held accountable by you. So get involved, keep up the pressure so that we can get back our free and fair internet. Heck
yeah, couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks so much, Jeff, for joining us. Great to have you on. Where can folks find you on the internet and watch your show?
YouTube.com/PYT Nation. We go live every Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern. And you can find me on Twitter at Jeff's Politics. It's my personal account, or ATN on TYT, and also Facebook.com/TYT Nation. So we're all over the internet. You can find us at all those different places.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, Jeff.